It's not a change of circumstance necessarily. It's a complete change of how I see myself.
What makes it tick? Guys have to know that. And then we can master ourselves, and then we can give ourselves.
For people in that kind of defining decade, where you live and who you live with are the two most important questions of change.
I'd say something that's helpful there is remembering why I made the choice in the first place.
If we believe in our identity as sons of God, then we never have to cling to anything else. You can have everything figured out in your life, and then one thing happens. One phone call, one breakup, one change. All of a sudden, you feel like you don't even know where you're heading. In this episode of the All In Podcast, we're going to talk about why change is so difficult, why you're not the only one who feels the tension. We're going to give a few helpful tips to help you understand how to navigate that change in your life. And then we're going to finish with solutions to get you through the change, not just in one piece, but stronger than when you came in before. This is the All In Podcast. We are so pumped to have you here. All right, All Innies, our number one listeners, welcome. This is so fun. Today we are talking about change. And I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but you just have a season of life that comes to a close. Maybe you just graduated college. Maybe you had one job and you're getting promoted. Maybe you had one job, you're switching to a new company. Maybe you're changing a romantic relationship. You just got engaged. You just got married. You just became a dad. Life is full of transitions, and frequently we're unprepared. And so we're going to give you 3 to 4 great solutions when you're in the midst of change. And I get to do it with a great friend and the new talent of the All In Podcast. Speaking of change, my good friend Luke Landiak. Applause button.
Hey. It's good to be here, John Michael.
Luke, man, this is awesome. I'm so glad we picked you up off the waiver wires. You know,
I've been waiting there all my life.
We signed you to a major NIL deal here at the All In Podcast. Got in touch with your agent.
Yep.
Great guy, by the way.
Wonderful.
I don't know. I can't remember his name, but we had a great email exchange about getting new talent on the pod.
No, I have so many agents actually that I don't remember his name.
You don't even remember which one. But for fans of the show that have gotten used to, a Hispanic gentleman named Jose.
Love you, Jose.
And the slightly more balding version of myself, Clayton, who used to sat there. The farewell episode, people learned that the podcast was changing, but the narrative was staying the same. And so now we're welcoming in you to the show. Who are you? What are you bringing to the show? Why do you want to be here?
Yep.
Tell our listeners what's going on here.
Here I am. My name is Luke Landiak, and like John Michael said, we are friends. We actually joined the same nonprofit 8 going on 9 years ago. So run back not quite as long as our friends from A&M. And so we got a little bit more self-discovery to do here.
That's right, man.
Self-discovery. So yeah, my name's Luke. I'm from outside Chicago. Actually the hometown of international DJ John Summit. If you want to go ahead and look him up.
Yeah, we could queue up In Chicago by John Summit. Yeah. What's your favorite John Summit song?
Silence, the Silence remix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have to get into that, but yeah, a huge EDM guy. Grew up listening to EDM. But yeah, from outside Chicago, I actually went out to University of Maryland. So shout out to all the East Coast listeners.
See, that's interesting.
Yep.
Why did that happen? I feel like that'd be rare. Mm-hmm. Like I was living in Kansas at the University of Kansas, and I had a bunch of Chicago boys that I worked with. Mm-hmm. And in talking to the Chicago boys, you'd be like, where'd all your buddies go? And it's like Illinois Champaign,
yep.
University of Iowa,
yep.
Maybe Minneapolis, KU, but Maryland. It's kind of a shot in the dark a little bit. Alabama, yeah, totally.
But yeah, East Coast, no.
Yep.
The only reason I even applied was because my eldest brother applied. That's it.
But he didn't go there.
He didn't even go there.
Wow.
He didn't even go there.
What was that transition like from, coming from Chicago, you go to Maryland, probably didn't know many people?
I didn't know a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, did not know a soul. And I think, let me start with my parents are kind of from the East Coast, Pennsylvania. Dad was born in Jersey.
Nice.
They met at Penn State, go Lions. So I grew up a Penn State fan, freshman English. That's where my parents met. And so kind of like going out east for vacations and getting to Pennsylvania and then making our way to the beach. That was how we grew up. And so I was always drawn east, just being the youngest, kind of seeing my brother go back to Penn State, going out to visit the grandparents. But showing up to Maryland, I was excited because that was my attitude when I was 18. let's just, grab life by the horns and jump into something brand new. What I wasn't, like why I chose Maryland was because it was big and felt kind of out of control, actually. And so that was something familiar for me. So my high school, I graduated with 800 people. And so
800 just in your class
just
alone.
in my class. Yeah, not in the school, in my class. There were
That
people
is
walking across the
wild.
stage. I
You had never
know.
met him before.
Yeah. And so that was really familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like when we talk about change, familiarity is something that is actually really helpful if I can keep the familiar things, right? And so a big school, a lot of people, kind of that fanfare.
Yep.
They just joined the Big Ten, for better or for worse.
Yeah, so you got there when they joined the Big Ten.
2018. They were just coming on board.
What is Maryland good at? Are they good at
lacrosse.
anything? Yeah, lacrosse. That's right. Yep.
And field hockey.
Men's lacrosse.
Yep.
Women's field hockey.
Yep. Yeah,
Interesting.
It's just women's.
I do think
men and women lacrosse. They both won like multiple times while I was there.
I do think they're responsible for some of the coolest yet most annoying football jerseys.
We can stick to coolest.
So like when they do, I think is it the Maryland state flag?
Yes.
That's kind of central to their jerseys.
Yep,
So they do
red
those
and white
helmets
and,
that have
black and
like the
yellow.
crazy patterns and stuff like that. When was the last time they were good at football?
They had a couple wins.
Like 3, 4, 5?
Last time they were good.
Like I can't
like
think of
above 500.
I can't name a single famous Maryland football player.
I'll do some research.
Yeah.
And when we talk college football,
We'll do it for that. Yeah.
Yeah. When I
I'm
get the
excited.
opportunity,
Excited for that episode.
we'll dive into Maryland football. Buckle up for that.
So then you get to Maryland. You come from Chicago. You get to Maryland. School's big. It feels out of control, which in a strange way felt familiar to you. What did you study? What did you get involved with?
Yeah.
What were kind of your social circles?
Maybe out of control is just like there's always more. Is like the out of control. So like, what did I study? Studied mechanical engineering. Like I wanted to be an engineer because my grandfathers were engineers.
Huh.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to be an engineer. When I was 18, and maybe some of you guys listening are kind of like, well, I like math. I'll go study engineering. Like, well, that's like good, but there wasn't a lot of discernment there, right? There wasn't a lot of prayerful intuition. There wasn't a lot of direction. Just like, I'm going to do a thing that I like.
What was your GPA? Like how good of a student were you?
First semester, I was a 3.85.
Wow. Was that during pledgeship?
No, second semester we actually started in the fraternity sphere.
Yep.
Second semester was a 3.8.
Yep.
And I graduated with just above 3.
Wow. So we just rode that ski slope all the way down to
sure
senior
did.
year.
Sure did.
What was your lowest semester?
I had to myself, the president of our fraternity, and one of the other vice presidents, we all had to drop out of differential equations.
Diff-EQ. That was at A&M. That was a legendary class. Like I remember my mechanical engineering buddies basically having to go to counseling after taking Diff-EQ.
Well, yeah, our counseling turned into later nights hanging out and not doing our homework. But I had to take that class over the summer. Those guys had to retake it. I'll start with them because it makes me look a little bit better. One of them got a 1.9.
Oh, in total?
In total.
Wow.
Not so for that semester.
Yeah.
The other guy got a 2.1. And I squeaked out. I think I ended that semester at a 2.8.
And that was your lowest?
That was my lowest. Yeah.
Not bad. So you graduated with mechanical engineering.
I did. Yeah.
And then tell us about the fraternity. So I was in a fraternity, you were in a fraternity. It was influential to my college experience.
Yep.
Was to you as well.
100%.
What was the story there?
Well, in the light of change, my attitude towards fraternities changed a lot. Because freshman Luke, like bright-eyed bushy-tailed on campus, I thought guys walking around with letters on their chest were just, annoying dweebs.
Really?
Don't want to be a part of that. Like, dude, you're probably insecure. Yeah.
What gave you that? Was that something you fostered in high school? Was it just?
I don't know. Like maybe I have a little bit of like anti-establishment in me.
Yep.
Just kind of like, I'm going to, I came all the way out here from Chicago. I'm going to blaze my own trail. So I don't know. Because then once I started actually making friends and in our floor of our Ellicott floor, the fourth floor of Ellicott Hall, when I actually started making friends, then that like became a fraternity. And I think the change was I needed to experience it. And I think that's something about change that like our mindsets, we can change. Like I did not like the fraternity system, But once I experienced authentic brotherhood, once I experienced guys who I didn't know, who now I know, we have shared experiences and there's a depth. Oh, then I want to represent that, actually. And I talk about it starting at my freshman year floor, because that was like the first fraternity I was kind of a part of. And that's actually, we started one. So we started a chapter of
Really?
Yep, of Delta Upsilon.
So you form these relationships with these guys on your dorm floor, and you guys are sitting around, eating Takis and playing Nintendo, and you're like,
Sure were.
We should start a fraternity.
So it wasn't we should start one.
Okay.
It was, hey, did you hear so-and-so got talked to by somebody from National?
Interesting.
Right. And so they had this, I don't know how they got my email or my number, but I get contacted, and this guy comes over, invites me into like the fraternity world.
Is he a fellow student, or is this
so
someone
he's
from
like
Nationals?
from the national like fraternity system.
Huh.
So from Delta Upsilon, and they're like, hey, we want to start a colony, and then that colony will become a chapter. And that's like when we hear about fraternities, we hear chapters of fraternities. So colonies are tiny.
Yep. So
I got talked to. One of my buddies down the hall got talked to.
Was he like recruiting you?
Yes.
He's putting the pitch on you.
Yes.
You're the type of guy that should start this.
And then he gave me a bid card. He's like, well, you can sign this right now.
For a fraternity that didn't exist on campus.
It didn't exist. It had no following, no house, no shirts.
Yeah. How am I going to show people?
Yeah, if I'm not wearing comfort colors, people aren't going to know who I am.
Right.
So anyway, not to super digress, but yeah, then I started. So I was like, well, we're already friends. Let's go get more of this.
So are you considered a founding father?
I am.
That's so cool.
I am.
John Adams, Luke Landiak, George Washington.
Heck yeah.
Who are the other founding fathers?
That's a great question, John Michael.
You don't remember? I don't barely.
That's a
I
great
don't
question.
even know.
Yeah. My dad's gonna roast me for that. He like loves history.
So you go to Maryland.
Yep.
You struggle through Diffie Q. You founding father of fraternity, which is super cool. At what point did faith come into the picture?
Immediately.
Really?
Immediately. So
that's really neat.
I'm the youngest of four.
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe some of our listeners kind of had this experience of when their older siblings go off to college. Like, I don't know what my brother, who's 9 years older than I am, was doing. Like, I knew he was in a fraternity, and I just assumed he was going to mass and praying and kind of cultivating his relationship with Jesus. I think he partied.
Mm-hmm.
I think like we all had a little phase, but I didn't know. And so when I entered college as a like naive 18-year-old, I was like, of course I'm going to get involved. Like, I'm going to find the Catholic parish. And there was actually a Dominican brother. So if you're ever on campus or walking around and you see a guy in all white, don't be scared. He's probably Dominican.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw a Dominican brother outside of my dorm of Ellicott Hall, and went up to him, talked to him. He gave me a cup with all the mass times on it.
That's crazy.
And I invited 2 or 3 of my friends from the floor. Funny story. First Saturday night, it's like 1 a.m, right? Like who's doing what on the first Saturday night of college? And I'm just like staying up late, putzing around. My buddy comes back. I'm like, hey, like, how was your night? He's like, oh, it was pretty good. I like had a couple beers, like trying to act tough. And he's like, yeah, like, how was your night? And he just thought I was kind of a frat boy. I just had the vibe. I was probably wearing a backwards hat. And I was like, yeah, I like watched a movie. I'm gonna go to mass tomorrow. Would you like to come? That's what I asked him. And he was totally taken aback. No, and not really a faith background, but he ended up coming with me. So I got involved super early in the ministry. Like, became friends with the chaplain, which was just like normal. Like, it's okay to be friends with priests. Like, it was such a cool experience. Became friends with the other guys who I kind of saw walking across campus to mass. It's like, oh, like, you're doing this? I'm trying to do this. Like, we can do this together. So yeah, before I even got to my dorm.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I was getting involved. It wasn't always like that.
You're growing in faith. You're found in the fraternity. You're going through, and then you graduate. And then walk us through graduation to present day, getting the call up from the waiver wire to the All In podcast.
Absolutely. Right. Just like our late great friends, like, we all joined the same Catholic nonprofit back in 2018. And that was a shock. That, talk about a change. Like, again, my mentality had to change around what I felt like my gifting for the world was. Because I thought, hey, I like math, right? 18 years old. Oh, I'm kind of good at it, and I try really hard. 19, 20, 21. A little bit charismatic enough to be like, oh, I could probably work in some sort of engineering management world and, play that game. So that's like where my head was at. Again, not having the life experience. And then along comes this opportunity to be a missionary, to go not use my college degree, not do what my parents expected me to do, not do what my friends expected me to do. And we can save that deep dive for another time, but long story short, like interviewed, said yes. And something cool, this is the All In podcast. When I got my offer to work for Focus, for the nonprofit, the guy who offered me said, Luke, I want you to do this and I want you to be all in. And that's kind of been a theme of the last 8 going on 9 years, because I've taken a tour of the Midwest. I got sent to Indiana and then Iowa, then Nebraska. I've been a follower on a team, just a teammate. I've been a team leader. I've been a head of a household, a formation program we do. And along the way, I've had to choose to be literally, like, again, not to use the word, but all in for, like, I have to plant the flag for, like, Jesus Christ being the center of my life. I have to, like, make decisions regarding friends and family that aren't necessarily popular or don't make sense. I went to Maryland. All my buddies stayed out east, DC, like New York, and they're all making more money than I am. And that's okay. That's okay. And then I look at, I guess I'll wrap it up with, like, kind of coming up from the bench to the podcast. I think sticking out, like, where do I believe that God is leading me? And being willing to take the next small step, whether it's moving from Iowa to Nebraska, moving from Nebraska to Denver, doing an office job when I signed up to be, like, in the field, getting a new set of skills. You and I are both in the MC world, developing that skill set, and then saying, all right, let's go. Yeah. Let's come have a conversation. Man, that's here we beautiful. Are. So. And then last but not least, and then we'll dive into some principles here. Yeah. And it's cool. It's cool because, what we're talking about today is how to handle change when it comes. And so what I hope you see from Luke's life is that, he's taking us on a journey of his life, but he's been pulling out principles that he's learned throughout all these different changes, from Chicago to the East Coast in college, to the change of founding a fraternity, to the change of becoming a full-time missionary, to the change of moving from one state to the next state, to the next state, to the next state, to being challenged in his professional life. And so we want to pull out some of those principles as we move throughout the episode. Before we do that, though, Luke has it's an exciting time in your life right now. Sure is.
You are getting married to a woman who, let's just be honest, there's out of our league, and then there's playing different sports. And that's where you find yourself.
Playing different sports. Because I would argue that I play at a high level in my league,
I mean, Marge, her real name's Margaret?
Margaret.
Okay. So for if you guys get the chance, I'm not going to invite you to Luke's wedding because that would be inappropriate of me, and I don't know if they have the room for that. But this woman is incredible, y'all. I mean, we have the opportunity to work together frequently, and Luke's in single A ball, and she's starting quarterback in the NFL. Like that would be the way we would articulate that.
Couldn't agree more.
Are we a couple months out now?
99 days.
That's huge.
99 days.
That is huge.
Yep.
Well, man, praise God.
Yeah.
A lot of cool changes, and you guys will get to know Luke more throughout our time on the podcast, and it's just super fun to be diving into the same themes, but with new stories, new relationships, new background that Luke's bringing to the table here. So, I got to tell you, I just was hanging out with another Luke. He's my younger brother. His name's Luke, and he's a listener of the podcast.
Strong name.
And we were having lunch together, and my brother's 26. He's a young professional in Dallas, and he's been dating a girl pretty seriously for a couple years.
Right on.
Plays 72 holes of golf a week. Me and him are actually training together to do a high rocks doubles
nice.
in Dallas, which I'm enjoying. But we were just talking about, he was expressing to me over lunch that he feels like he's in a really good season of life right now.
Cool.
He's like, I'm super comfortable.
Yep.
I'm making good money. I have great friends. I have a great relationship. I have a ton of free time.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I just feel comfortable, and I'm worried that being comfortable is going to make me lazy. And it was a really cool conversation, because what I was explaining to him is that in times of comfort in your life, that those are times that you need to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Like you actually need to exteriorly look for things to add in. And it just got me thinking about, a lot of our listeners are guys and ladies actually in their 20s and their 30s. And there's a book right here on the shelf. I don't know if the listeners can see it, but it's called The Defining Decade. It's one of my favorite books. And what the book talks about is that the time in your kind of 18 to 28, which is where we found ourselves, 20 to 30, somewhere in there, it's your defining decade in life, because all of the major decisions that you're going to make in your life happen in this 10-year period. So you choose what you're going to study.
Yep.
And choosing what you're going to study typically dictates what job you're going to have. And what job you have dictates where you're going to live. And where you live dictates the friends you have. And the friends you have dictates the girls you date. And the girls you date dictate the woman you marry. And the woman you marry dictates the family that you have and the children that you have.
Probably
and
where you live.
Where you live for your life. And so the book talks about this defining decade as like all of the major decisions of your life are happening. And so many of our listeners are in the midst of that right now. And at one moment, they're living in Dallas. 2 years later, they're living in Denver.
Yep.
2 years later, they've changed careers. 2 years later, they're married when, 18 months ago, they were single. And so our listeners are sitting there going, I'm experiencing all this change, and I just feel like it's shaking me to my core when it happens.
Yeah.
And I guess the question for you is, why do you think change affects us? Why does change affect us as much as it does?
That's a great question. And shout out to your brother for being in a state of life where actually he wants maybe more change. Hey, if you get comfortable, probably doing uncomfortable things. Like if you haven't changed anything, like good for you. We can celebrate that for a moment. Yeah. I was thinking about kind of reviewing my life as I got ready to come on the podcast, and like the familiarity and clear thinking allows me to feel confident. If my mind is clear and it's like, okay, I know I'm going to work. I know I'm talking to this person. I know I'm going to eat this for lunch and dinner, and I'm good to go. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if that's all ordered, then I can think. And I would say, like, why does it feel like things rock us to our core? It's because it takes so much more mental energy when we're not in that familiar routine. Like, simply put, right? Like I go on vacation and it's actually harder for me to schedule in a workout because I don't have to go to work.
Circumstances have changed. Yeah.
And that's a small example.
Right.
But then you add those things.
Right.
Add those things. Hey, I broke up and I started a new job and I moved. Oh, geez. Who are you talking to? You're not talking to your girlfriend. Like, where are you going? You don't know the new city, and you probably don't feel confident. And like we can take a breath there.
I wonder too if it's helpful to identify different types of changes.
Yeah.
Because in my head, as I just brainstorm this, and I'm just kind of putting something on the whiteboard here.
Yeah.
But in my head, there's kind of two main types of changes.
Okay.
You have, I'll call them controllable changes. So a controllable change is something that you chose. So for example, Luke, you chose to move from Lincoln, Nebraska to Denver, Colorado.
Sure did.
Could you have stayed in Lincoln?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you made a decision. All right, I'm choosing to move to Denver. You also made a decision, mostly because if you didn't propose to her, you would have never found a more beautiful woman
who
would be willing to say yes. But you chose to get engaged.
Yes.
You're choosing to get married. You're choosing where you live. You're choosing the housing situation you have. So those are controllable changes.
Yeah, controllable changes.
Well, then you have uncontrollable changes. So these are things that kind of happen outside of you that affect you. The death of a parent
Yeah.
or a grandparent or a sibling, a demotion or a promotion, something that someone is choosing on behalf of you.
Yeah.
Getting broken up with, or I'm thinking on a
Like an
on a
injury
more
even.
an injury, or maybe on a more serious level, a period of miscarriage or infertility in a marriage.
Yeah.
Or for me, one of the things that I didn't choose but happened to me was me and my wife chose to have a second child. We didn't choose that our second child would have Down syndrome. So those are transitions that are kind of happening outside of our control.
Right.
And my question for you is, which of those two do you think people struggle with more? And then why are some changes easier than others within those two worlds?
Yeah. I think when we start talking about why it could be helpful to lock in, like, hey, here's what's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can actually share, here's what's helpful for this situation. But what do people struggle with more? This might be a little experiential. Sometimes I'm going to speak for me. I struggle more with the changes that I make.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because when it gets hard, then I'm so tempted to turn inward and blame myself.
That's really good.
And that's not a healthy cycle, right?
Tell me, give me an example of a time where you chose something, it went wrong, and you're like, well, I shouldn't have done that.
Shoot. 1 of 100. Let's go back to let's go back to college, and let's talk about that semester where, right, our fraternity leadership was all failing. I was failing as well. And this is kind of a lighter example because it's just classes,
mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Just classes. And I bit off more than I could chew. I chose to take 18 credits. I would have graduated on time if I took less than 18. And I chose to take a harder course load. So that was my choice that I did to me. And what I encountered was my own inadequacy, my own lack of discipline, my own weakness in like my ability to buckle down, get the work done with everything else that's going on. And so I think what I'm saying is that it was exposing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why the choices like I make actually are harder changes. And I think maybe like if I could, and I'll shoot this back to you in a second, but I'd say something that's helpful there is remembering why I made the choice in the first place.
Yep.
Right? Like you chose to have a second kid. Like, praise God.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful opportunity to like enter into the reality of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now take a much less intense example. Like, I chose to take a heavy course load. Like, hey, Luke, good work. Good work. Biting off more than you can chew, because it shows that you're looking to push the limits.
Yeah.
So I think that would be maybe like one thing that's helpful, a little bit of gratitude.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll shoot it back over. Would you say, or would you agree with me that?
It's funny. I was quite surprised by your answer, because I would have thought that when change is external and it affects you, that those would be the harder ones.
And that's me.
Right. And I think I was thinking about it in my own, the way I would answer. And I do think there is something about when your exterior circumstances are changing and you're not the one that chose it, there can be an easy opportunity to blame your frustration on other people or other circumstances.
You're given a scapegoat.
Yeah, like let's say let's say that you get a call from your boss or your manager, and they say, hey, we're moving you positions in the company. You have a new manager, and that manager just, for lack of a better term, is tough. And you don't like them, and you guys don't see eye to eye, and he or she's hard on you. It's easy to say, man, that if I just didn't have this manager, my life would be better. Or something happens to me, my life would be easier if my landlord was better. Or my life would be easier if my roommate was cleaner. Or my life would be easier if my company would just pay me more money. And I think those are harder to deal with oftentimes because you feel a lack of agency in the change.
Sure.
However, Father Mike Schmitz talks a lot about this, that's an opportunity for what he calls an interior surrender.
Okay.
So Father Mike talks about a difference of exterior surrender versus interior surrender. So exterior surrender is you have a new boss and you exteriorly surrender in the sense of saying, okay, I'm happy to report to that person. I'll do it. I exteriorly say, I will participate with this decision that's been made. Interior surrender says, in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, I'm excited to work with this person.
That's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, big difference.
One is easy, exterior surrender. Interior surrender is a complete conversion of heart to the circumstances that I'm in. And I have lived lots of my life in exterior surrender.
Likewise.
Because it looks good. It gains awards, it gains accolades. You can kind of fake it to people. But the interior surrender, this happened just last night. My listeners of the podcast know my one of my children, Judah, has Down syndrome, and it brings a variety of challenges to our family. One of which is his incapacity to sleep through the night. And so last night, just killed me, man. He likes to take up so much of the bed when he joins our bed. He's 5 years old, but like he sleeps like a 50-year-old man, just like spread out, snores like a
starfish,
like a bear.
Yeah.
Anyways, but he had woken up a couple times throughout the night, and exterior surrender is I'll get out of bed to get him. That's exterior surrender.
Yeah.
Interior surrender is I will get out of bed to get him, and I will jump at the opportunity to serve my son. Yeah. I will get out of bed in the middle of the night, and I will say, God, I love laying my life down. Now, did that happen last night? No. Actually, in the middle of the night, I said, son of a beep.
Bee sting.
And my wife was like, why do you always cuss in the middle of the night? You never cuss during the day. And I was like, I don't know. Something happens in the middle of the night where things just come out of my mouth. But that's the difference between exterior and interior. And it can be a helpful way to understand how we respond to change.
Yep.
Because we may be surrendering our ability. We may be surrendering in the sense of willingness, but we may not have had a conversion of excitement to the circumstances in our lives.
Would you say that the exterior and interior surrender, what is that in the same umbrella if we were to like give a tip or give this is a rule for when you're going through change as recognizing where blame might be? Because I feel like in like the exterior decision that affects me, I can blame that. In like my decision, I blame me. And that's kind of where I was going. Like, where am I kind of pushing responsibility? And then where am I taking on the reality of my situation? Are those two different things? Or do you think those?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is looking at within a situation. What are my controllables in a situation? What are my uncontrollables? So if I move into a new housing situation,
yep.
Which that's a funny part of kind of young adult life, I think, is you frequently are jumping into new living situations. Since you graduated college, how many different living situations have you found yourself in?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm on number 8. That's
insane.
Since May 2018.
And that's basically the one a year, right?
Yep.
So you've kind of either moved houses or moved roommates.
And if it's like, there's an in between, maybe like March to August, but I have to move all my stuff. Like all of those 8 I'm moving all my stuff.
And I think people have to do that a lot. I mean, that's a common experience, I think, of young adulthood. But that's a great example of like controllables versus uncontrollables. So it's like I can control the people I live with. Like I get to choose who I want to live with. I can even choose in some ways like where I live.
Yep.
City. Do I want an apartment? Do I want a rental house? Do I want to own a home and have some buddies pay the mortgage for me? Stuff like that. But then you have the uncontrollables, which is like the guys you live with's attitudes or
Totally.
sense of cleanliness or, just how they interact in the home. And you're like, you would think living with a bunch of 27, 28-year-old dudes that everyone would be
No.
kind of, clean and buttoned up.
I think 5 years ago I believed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that that's not the case. But how do you, like, in to just get practical for
Yep.
guys in those type of situations, how do you look at, all right, here's the controllables, here's the uncontrollables when it pertains to my living situation, for example?
Yeah. First thing, what you just said, like identify them.
Mhm.
Like, okay, you remember that you chose to move in, like you chose this. And then I'm sure we'll talk about some conflict in the future, and it's okay to, like, if things don't meet expectations, like, and things are not stuck,
Mhm.
right? You are not stuck.
Mhm.
You are not stuck, right? Because things can change. So if you don't like the furniture, hop on Facebook Marketplace.
Mhm.
If you don't like the way somebody does their dishes, hey man, I don't like the way you do your dishes.
Right.
You can tell them. And then I think those so like identify what you can control, identify what you can't. Identify exactly what you were mentioning earlier. Like, do I need to just choose it? Do I need to just do the thing for now? Or do I need to, I'm really excited to drive to work with this guy because he doesn't have a car, but he needs to have a car because he lives in Denver, but he's going to mooch off me for the next 3 months,
Right.
So,
Right.
so I think that's kind of like, I would say, identify where the blame game could come up. 1, 2, is it external? Is it internal? And then we talked about those, like, sometimes you just got to do it. Just get out of bed and hold them. Right. But sometimes you can breathe through it and be grateful.
I got a follow-up question from that because
Yeah.
I think we're touching on something that maybe a lot of dudes are either currently going through or have recently gone through.
Okay.
When you're moving to a new place, a new city or a new part of town, and you're talking about the type of guys I live with, where I live, how close is my living situation to my employment, and or a parish or a community or a part of town where there's other young adults.
Yep.
How would you give advice to guys on how to make those decisions and how important are those decisions?
I think rewind the podcast, listen to what you just said, those like 5 things.
Yep.
Right. Who, where, like, what are you doing? Who's like, and then the community. And so much of this just comes down to, like, your priorities. Do you know you? Before the podcast started, you asked me, basically, like, what makes you tick? Like, what's the thing that, gets Luke going?
Yep.
And we guys have to know that. Because if you don't know that, then live anywhere.
Right.
It's probably going to be fine.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit of self-discovery. And so I'd say, like, if you don't know what you want, figure it out and take a walk in the woods, go to the chapel, talk to one of your brothers. Because that, like, self-understanding, that self-mastery will eventually, so self-knowledge, right? We need to know. And then we can master ourselves, and then we can give of ourselves. And that process, like, if we don't know, then we won't be able to make decisions. So that's kind of my first thing, is you just got to know. And I would say it's okay if you don't know and you need to ask. That's another thing.
Yep.
Right? Ask me, because I've lived in 8 different places in 5 different states the last 8 years. So I don't know if that answers your question, if you had more comments there.
No, I think people don't think hard enough about this. I think they just they're like, oh, I just need to get into a place. I just need to find a place to live.
I just need that line. I just need. It's not
bad
helpful.
news.
Yeah,
that's bad news. Or I just need a job, right? Like, I just need to get into a job, and so I'm gonna kind of, sacrifice some of my hopes.
Yeah.
Just to get into a job a month ahead of time, versus if I waited, I might have found a better opportunity. But I just think for people in that kind of defining decade, where you live and who you live with are the 2 most important questions of change. Like, defining decade says, like, who you live with will impact the type of people you're around, and the type of people you're around will impact the type of person that you meet, which will impact the type of person you marry. Like, all of those things, you have to live with a pretty significant sense of intentionality to set yourself up for success and put yourself in the right environment.
Yep. Agreed. Looking at changes, and you kind of mentioned some of my story.
Yep.
We saw like the external versus internal
Mhm.
decisions.
Mhm.
We saw like the blame game. Am I blaming? That just needs to be gotten rid of. And so we have like, I need to choose it internally and externally. I need to know if I'm scapegoating anybody. And then the third one would be, I got to live with that intentionality with self and with others. Would you have anything to add there? I think those are kind of three solid.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've maybe danced around but haven't explicitly stated is, there could be people sitting there going, why is change so difficult for me?
Yeah.
Like it should just be, maybe they're being a little hard on themselves of like it, something I've thought a lot about is like, why was I always wanted to be married, and then I got married and I was like, well, this is really hard. Why did I'd always kind of dreamed about this moment, and now I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's really challenging.
Yeah.
Or then I really wanted to be a dad, and I would just, dream, and you'd see, you may be there at a time like this yourself where you spend time with families with children and you're like, oh, I just can't wait to be a dad. And then you become a dad and you're like, this is really not what it was cracked up to be. It's not like the Huggies commercial. And anyways, but there may be people sitting there going, why is this so challenging? Why is this change producing such a tension in my heart, in my mind? And I would love to get your perspective on that. Of one, is that a normal sensation? And two, if it is normal, why?
Is it normal? Yes. If you don't agree with kind of that like internal, external that I talked about, that's okay. But is it normal to feel like this is a lot and maybe I'm not okay?
Yep.
Like I'm actually not okay in where I'm living right now, compared to 2 months ago. That's okay. Why does that happen? I think look back at a lot of what we talked about, and yeah, there's just like a level of what doesn't change in our life. And sometimes we have these pillars that we don't even know are pillars. And I would argue that it's because we either think those aren't possible in our new state, or those have changed, they look different. That like these immovable things that, whether we knew that they were like immovable in our life before, whether it was like church on the weekends or even throughout the workday or the weekdays, like your job, your relationship, the people that you talk to. Let's take dating. Oh, I have my go-to, my girlfriend, right? And I talk to her about everything. And then you break up. Now you no longer have somebody who you're talking about everything with.
Yep.
And so there's a pillar that you had that maybe you didn't know it was a pillar.
Right.
That's now gone.
Yep.
And that's why we need to have that like gentle intrinsic look of like, what are the non-negotiables, whether it's church community or prayer or work or communication or friendship, all that stuff. So I think that's why it's hard.
No, it's well said. Very well said. And I think the pillar piece, it makes a lot of sense. I feel that. One of the things that we relate a lot on is fitness.
Absolutely.
So Luke and I have gotten to put on some John Summit and crush some early morning WODs. If you're not familiar with CrossFit terminology, WOD stands for workout of the day. But Luke really likes CrossFit. I am not strong enough to do CrossFit, so I like the female version called High Rocks.
We don't have to call it that.
I'm just kidding. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday from Noah Olson. Do you know?
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think he's super cool.
One of the older guys and like who's still in the game right now. Absolutely.
So Noah Olson was a professional CrossFitter 10 years in a row, made the CrossFit Games, which is kind of the pinnacle of that sport. And he was on a podcast yesterday. He's a Christian, which I found really cool. And he was talking about coming to the end of his professional time as a CrossFit athlete. And the podcaster the guy hosting the podcast was like, how are you feeling about that? You've been in the sport for 15 years. You've been a coach. You've competed at a high level. And he's like, I've never been more scared of anything in my life. Whoa. And the podcaster's like, what are you talking about? Like, you should have been looking forward to this. Like, you don't have to train anymore. You don't have to count your macros anymore.
You don't have to suffer.
You don't have to suffer.
It's not going to be hard anymore. And that's good, quote unquote.
And he said something really powerful. He was like, the end of my CrossFit career represents an end of my identity as a CrossFit athlete.
Wow.
And so what he was explaining was that he had been looking at himself in this light. I'm a professional CrossFit athlete. And so that's my identity. Mm-hmm. And my identity is that I do this, fitness event really well. And so he's like, now as I'm looking out at my future, I'm struggling to figure out what my new identity is going to be.
Right.
And I love finding stories in the world that show us the truths about how God has made us, because I was sitting there listening to this podcast and I was like, yes. And I was thinking about preparing for this episode and I was like, that's it. That's why we struggle with change. Mm-hmm. It's because when I was in this work, or when I was in this city, or when I was in this college, or when I was in this fraternity, or when I was in this relationship, or when I was married without kids, now married with kids.
Jeez, yeah.
It's not a change of circumstance necessarily, although it is from the external looking in. It's a complete change of how I see myself. And so I saw myself as really good at this job, for example. Then I get promoted. Mm-hmm. Now I feel uncomfortable because it's a new set of skills. And now I see myself as bad at this job. And so my identity has turned from someone who's successful to someone who's not successful.
Right.
Or yes. I was married without kids. And so I saw myself as someone capable of loving my spouse well. Well, now, she's up nursing all night and I feel quite incapable of taking care of her. And so now the change of identity is someone who was good at loving their wife and now someone who's bad at loving their wife. Yeah. And when I heard him say that just unlocked it for me of like, oh, that's why. It's not a change of city. It's a complete change of identity. And I don't know, when you hear that, what goes through your mind?
I think that would be, if you take one thing away from what we've talked about the last 30, 40 minutes, is great, my story, like your experience, but like if you're listening, then the takeaway is find the pillar that's immovable. Find the pillar that's immovable. For me, my relationship with Jesus. That will not change. You cannot take that away. Right? And we read about that in the saints, in the scriptures. Like there's St. Paul imprisoned, was not, his pillar of identity in Jesus did not change. And when we go through transition, we have to find those immovables. And I would argue, say I move back home in the Midwest. Like if I have community, one of those immovables can still be community. Right? It doesn't have to be this like super overly spiritual situation. But I think what you just outlined with Noah Olson and like, I have to find a new identity. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe you do right now.
Right.
If your identity is rooted in maybe something a little more fragile than an eternal, all-powerful God.
That's right.
So that's what I'd say there. If you have anything to add,
man, and I feel like, I just feel like our generation is just hyper obsessed with the need to constantly reinvent itself. So like new. Yeah, they just always have this need of like, I just need to reinvent myself. Like I need a new job, I need a new city. And I think we're the culture's telling us that because we need something to root ourselves into. And so when we don't have that, we start clinging to any sense of stability, whether it's a job, whether it's a city, whether it's a relationship. And man, you hit the nail on the head of if we believe in our identity as sons of God, then we never have to cling to anything else. Yeah. Here's the deal. Change is terrifying.
Amen.
Absolutely scary. But it also can't be seen as an enemy in our lives. And so whether it's a job, a relationship, whatever, change gives you the opportunity to grow and to figure out more of who you are and who God has made you to be. Honestly, if I were you, I would be more scared of not changing than I would be of finding myself in the midst of the change. If this episode hits close to home, maybe you know someone who's going through the middle of a giant transition, please send this to them, share this with them. Liking this podcast, subscribing to this podcast helps us reach a generation of men and women who needs to hear about the value of being all in on Jesus and all in on who God has made them to be. This is the All In Podcast. This is the brand new star, Luke Landiak, and we cannot wait to see you in the next one.